through and honor the recount numbers. Sure enough, they went through the recount, and here is what we get for honoring the recount. All kinds of applications in the court again. And again, still another application on a day like this when this matter could have been concluded today. Question, therefore, is where will it end, and what do they hope to gain from all this rambling and wrangling in court?
Indeed. Selwyn, a matter of technicality here. I don't know if we have lost you a little bit. I'm hoping not. As a matter of technicality here, Mr. Pieters, this matter then presumably will end at the Superior Court, that being the CCJ. Would it not be a little bit of egg on your face approach that the applicant, which might very well be the defendant by then, is going to take a CCJ matter to the CCJ? Isn't it? Wouldn't it be something of a something never happened like that before?
Well, I mean, these cases are going into the realm of frivolous, vexatious, and bad faith litigation. So that's basically what's going on. Frivolous, vexation, bad faith litigation. And someone is going to have to bring a motion to strike the application. Actually, someone can do that. One of the parties can bring a motion to strike that application out and have the judge deal with that tomorrow. And if the judge says, well, this is frivolous, it's vexatious, it's in bad faith, let GECOM do its job. We've had Holiday, we've had Yulita Moore, we've had Davis, and now we've had this, Jones. The CCJ had just cite the last paragraph of the CCJ ruling and knock it out.
So that is a likelihood, counsel, isn't it? That an applicant could go to the court tomorrow itself and say, we beg you to look at this from this perspective?
Yes. If I was representing a party, that's what I would have done, because the CCJ, the last paragraph of its ruling is quite clear. And I would have brought that to the court's attention and have the court deal with it from that perspective and dismiss this application without even hearing it. Hearing whether it should grant leave or whether it should hear it on its merits.
Right. Interesting, Leonard. That is an interesting take indeed. And Leonard, do you know if this Jones person is related to the politician Jones person, or is it just?
We were hearing, so somebody did text us that and say that they're related to the person is related to Christopher Jones. We don't have any kind of confirmation. But quickly, as I'm on the floor here, could I ask the Council Charrandass something very quickly, which is what is in everybody's mind, seeing what is playing out now and what the whole country is in limbo at the moment. Do you regret the December the 24th, the stance that you took in 2018? Do you regret it based on what we're going through at the moment?
My brother, what I will say, what I saw during my 3.5 years as an MP, the people are now seeing it. And I'm here with Selwyn. And I will take the liberty, for those of you who probably don't know, Selwyn is an African Guyanese. If you want to call him whatever you want to call him, I'm in his office. He's also done all kinds of inquiries in Guyana. You might want to think he's a PNC lawyer. I don't know that. But I'm here with a man who's definitely not an East Indian. I am not a racist. I will tell anybody. As a matter of fact, Selwyn is right here. I asked him, I said, man, you should have been the chairman for GECOM. This matter would have been wrapped up a long time ago, because his views are different. I see integrity in this man. I see a no-nonsense individual. And that is my take on Selwyn Pieters. So then where is this race that they're screaming? What I'm seeing, and it's not an easy thing to just bypass. My take on this is, all that is coming is, well, we don't want this man, Irfan Ali, to sit in the president's office. And however you want to look at that is something that I guess we can take at a different level. But my take on that is, what I saw and what I got from Walter Lawrence, no ifs and no buts. They were bent on removing, like Barnum did with the Peter Degar squad, all the outsiders of the PNC. And that would have meant the Justice for All Party, the WPA is actually part of them now, and the AFC. If Nagamutu and Ramjatan think that they were going to get a position again in 2020, assuming that the coalition had won this election, they were not going to get anything, because it was clear Granger did not publish anything to show Ramjatan as a prime ministerial candidate. That was not a proper declaration of any kind. And so what I saw, Gildarie, to answer your question more specifically, is we were being handicapped. We took a seat from the PPP in Region 6, and it was the cane cutters who took that seat from the PPP. And it was the cane cutters, the majority from Berbice, who were so handicapped and brutally put on the streets and on the breadline, them and their family. And so it was the cane cutters in 2020 who made that drastic change. It's not a big majority, but it was enough to remove the PNC, AFC, APNU, whatever you want to call them. They elected the people who put them there. That's their biggest mistake. I was one of those persons, and I did not quite take the picture that was being painted, that we're all part of the same parcel. No, I wanted proper representation for the people, particularly in Region 6. I didn't get that, and I was starting to look at these people differently. And I saw what I saw then. The world is seeing it now. They're all about power. They're all about putting themselves in high offices and their colleagues. So you all know the rest of that story, my brothers.
Right. And Selwyn, with regards, I mean, you have had some, and I don't mean political experience, I mean your legal experience. You have had experience dealing with some of the persons who would have formed part of the incumbent. And Selwyn, you would have known, Charan, you would have known as well, that leading up to 2015, there was a lot of support, a lot of hype, a lot of persons, 25 to 30,000 people, swung the votes in this country and put the PPP in opposition, and you had an APNU-AFC victory. Now, it is telling that it is 25,000 votes that the PPP has won by. That APNU has lost by. The PPP has about 15,000, and the combined small parties about 9,000, nearly 10,000. And there you go. That's about the 25,000. So, Selwyn, these numbers don't make sense to APNU-AFC, but it certainly does to any analyst looking at it.
They're the swing votes.
Well, I think they do make sense to moderate persons who are PNC, AFC, WPA, or any other political party that forms the coalition. The coalition got in there on a groundswell 5 years ago because people were fed up after 23 years of the PPP. And a lot of the PPP members that supported APNU went over to the AFC because of Nagamutu and Ramjatan. People expected change, and they expected substantial changes. And quite frankly, the 5 years of the APNU-AFC was a disappointment. It was a disappointment to me as well. You're right that I did act as counsel in a substantial number of cases and public inquiries on behalf of the government. And you're right that I was a PNC lawyer. I was the lawyer for the PNC, and I was a legal advisor for David Granger when the Rodney motion was being tabled in Parliament. I was the one that provided the legal advice. So I take nothing back from saying that I was a PNC lawyer, and I still have close colleagues and friends in the PNC. I mean, what is important here, Yog, is that we must recognize that these are major political parties in Guyana, the PNC and the PPP. There's a small group of persons within the coalition that has determined that they're not giving up power. And Dominic Gaskin has said that quite clearly. Those of us that are moderate have to keep putting pressure on them because we do not want Guyana to become an autocratic state. We do not want Guyana to be ruled by demagogues. We want Guyana to respect the democratic processes, and elections are part of the democratic process. I mean, I have an affinity with Charrandass because Charrandass voted with his conscience, and I support him because he voted with his conscience. Something was not right, and we know that something wasn't right when 90,000 people didn't turn out to vote in the local government election. That was in October, November, and then you had Charrandass no confidence vote in December. That should have told the coalition something, but it seems like they didn't get a message. And now there's another message sent by the electorate, and they're going to have to be forced to listen to the international community and persons within Guyana to give up. All these court matters are wasting precious resources that could have built a brick prison at Luziknan. And, you know, we wouldn't have had that fire that destroyed the whole building this weekend if they had followed my advice to build a big prison. Well, what are they doing? They're spending money needlessly on frivolous and vexatious litigation. They haven't won any of those cases yet. I mean, they've had 30 lawyers on the last case. We'll see how much lawyers show up on this file.
Sorry, let's put it this way. A couple of interesting twists and turns have happened. And the narrative of APNU-AFC has changed so dramatically that one wonders that it is the same people saying it, that they haven't forgotten their new script. Because at the beginning, it was Mingo and his numbers, and then they went to the thing, every vote must count, and then it went only valid. And, you know, I agree, every vote must count, and it must only be valid votes. We all, the whole world agree with that, right? Now, it has gone back to the Mingo's declaration. It has gone back to the Mingo's numbers. Before we get to that point, Selwyn, I wanna take umbrage at both of you two gentlemen for something, and especially Mr. Charrandass Prasad. Charan, you have been part of the AFC.
Yes.
And the AFC joined with the WPA, and you killed Walter Rodney once again after all the work Selwyn and his team would have done in the Commission of Inquiry. Why?
Well, the debate was in Parliament, you know. And as we sat in the back bench, Nagamutu was one of the persons who spoke on behalf of the government against, and this is what bothered me again, one of the many things that caused me to literally, I could have lost all the hair in my head, man. But one of the things that he did, he was the man, when he was a PPP member, who fought vehemently against the PNC and accused them of killing Walter Rodney. And yet in Parliament, this man defended the PNC. And up to today, he has not come out to say, well, you know, I was wrong, or we're still conscious that the death of Walter Rodney was no accident and it was orchestrated by the PNC or whoever. He defended that because all he wanted to do was secure his position. And again, you see, these are some of the things, when you look at people who can stand up and tell you that, you know, that pen that you're writing with, it's made out of plastic, and you know that it's a paper made, or it's one of these cross pen that's made out of some kind of metal, not plastic. They want to convince you that your hand is not soft when you know that it's soft. All these are things that these chaps do because all we were told, look, when it comes to the vote, you will vote when we vote. Nagamutu. So again, I sat in the back seat. Well, we call them backbencher parliamentarians. Myself, I published a picture of three of us: Odwin Rutherford, Rajkumar, Charrandass, and the other one for the backbench on the AFC side was Michael Carrington. We were yes men. I had no say. I couldn't say a word about anything. The juvenile justice bill that says if you're 14 and under, you are not going to be criminally liable. We have passed that bill. And when you ask that the bill goes to a select committee, which is some opposition members and some government members sit down to thrash it out and see how you can adjust it, maybe make it 12. England, it's 10. Trinidad, it's 12. Why do we have to go to 14? Some 14-year-old in Guyana got children of their own. And yet you're going to say they will not be criminally liable. So, but I had no say. I just had to vote yes, the bill must pass, and so the bill was passed. That was all that I did in Parliament. Yes. And so the people in Berbice, anybody see me, man, what do you do in Parliament? I said, I sit down there, I collect $260,000 a month, and I speak for 45 minutes every year. That's when 35 minutes every year. That's when the budget debate is tabled, and you get to speak.
That is a very sad recount of what eventually happens to all the passion and zeal of young and new politicians, in your case, gets onto the scene. Selwyn, any comments on that? Because you would have sweated, my brother, I mean that positively, to ensure that everything with regards to Walter Rodney and the inquiry and so forth would have ended up seeing something that can be part of Guyana's history.
I mean, the Walter Rodney inquiry was an interesting inquiry because it had the potential to break the coalition up. And so, you know, our work on the Walter Rodney Commission, particularly my work, was fundamental in terms of keeping the coalition together. And and everyone knows that, because, I mean, Basil Williams was the other lawyer on the commission for the PNC side. And his posture towards Takuma, Ogonse, and the rest of them wasn't really nice. And so it took somebody like me to sort of be the middle person between the PNC and the PPP, really, during an electoral season, 2014, 2015, to sort of keep that coalition together. Otherwise, they would have disintegrated. But I mean, the thing about the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry is that, you know, Walter Rodney is a patriot in the same way that Charrandass Prasad is for his no confidence vote. And, you know, I agree that the sort of posture that certain people within the WPA has taken certainly would make Walter Rodney cringe, because quite frankly, you know, you saw what happened yesterday outside the office of the president. It was quite telling, those people laying down in front of the presidential vehicle and carrying on. President Granger should act more like a statesman. President Granger should really, you know, do exactly what he called for in 2015. We knew what the numbers were in 2015. We knew that the APNU-AFC won in 2015. Similarly, we know that in 2020, the PPPC has won the elections. And like I said before, you know, the APNU-AFC or the PNC, they could do their grassroots work and come back stronger in 2025. But the posture that they're taking right now, this strong man kind of leadership by a few, is going to alienate a lot of moderate people. People do not want to see Guyana return to what it was like in 1980 with sanctions, where we had to line up for flour, for oil, for cooking oil, and all those sort of stuff. I grew up in Guyana then, and so I know about those experiences where van loads of police would show up in Stabroek Market, seizing bread from the bread vendors. All those things are going to happen with sanctions. Again, we're gonna be like Venezuela or worse. And so, your question was tailored to Walter Rodney. These are the things that Walter Rodney railed against in 1980, and it seems like we're heading back to the period between 1980 and 1985.
Well, there is an amazing phenomenon, Selwyn and Charan. I just want to spend this. This might be a little bit of a frivolous matter, to be honest, but I want to spend some time on it because an amazing phenomenon has taken place, or would have been allowed to go across the APNU-AFC supporters in 2020 elections. And I'll explain it as follows. It seems like, Selwyn, you are receiving money from Mahadeo to say the things you're saying. It seems like Charrandass was paid from Jagdeo. It seems like Jagdeo paid Ralph Gonzalez. He paid Mayor Motley. He paid Bruce Golding. He paid.
York
He has paid,
Mahadeo.
yes, he has paid. He buy out Glenlal and Kaieteur Radio and Kaieteur News. He paid OAS. He paid Kozak and Secretary of State. This man has so much wealth, Charan and Selwyn, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. Here is the other spin, and this one is addressed to people like Colleen and so forth that is online with us. Here is the other spin. Now, Ralph Gonzalez is Jagdeo's friend. Owen Hart is his friend. More Motley is his friend. Charan, Selwyn, Yog, Glenlal. So it seems like Granger has no friend. So, Charan and Selwyn, did you guys disclose to your Commissioner of Taxes and Inland Revenue there your receipt from Mr. Jagdeo?
Well,
let me say this before.
actually, you're on mute, so let me speak. Let me make it quite clear. I think it's offensive that people would think that I could be bought and sold. I wasn't bought and sold by the Granger administration. I mean, and I've been doing work for them since 2012 when I represented the AFC in the Linden Commission of Inquiry. 2014, I did Sir Walter Rodney Inquiry to 2015 pro bono. I didn't even get a glass of water from the AFC, APNU, and I didn't request it.
Right.
President Granger didn't pay me for the legal opinion that I provided to him that he requested. Joe Harmon didn't pay me for representing him in the libel suit against Kaieteur News, sorry. When I did the Paul Slow Commission of Inquiry, I was basically doing the work. I wasn't paid for that and didn't ask for money. When I went to the Caribbean Court of Justice, the same thing. So if I couldn't be bought by the APNU-AFC, how can I be bought by Jagdeo, who has no connection to me? And let me make it quite clear. When I represented the APNU-AFC, I didn't even ask them for house lots or anything. You know, I didn't ask them for any favors. I mean, Basil Williams' son worked in my office. I trained Basil Williams' son to be a lawyer, right? When Charrandass brought his no confidence, when Charrandass voted with the opposition, I was the one that Basil Williams called to get an expert affidavit on Canadian citizenship law. And I had fortunately done the leading case on Canadian citizenship law. And so the Justice Roxane George accepted my evidence and cited the case that I had argued here at the Court of Appeal. So it's quite frankly, ethically and morally bankrupt people that are screaming about, they say, oh, T-Tech pay. That is how the Guyanese say. This person tech pay.
Correct.
Charrandass laughing. Charrandass wants to join you. You better unmute him.
No, yes, go ahead, Charan.
Yo, let me say this. I have some friends in Orlando, a couple of buddies here. I'm not going to be naming anybody, but you know what? I am like a little god to them. And they will, again, family members of mine, they will never, ever, Selwyn has met a couple that never see me want for anything. And so I am living here. People, I don't know if they will believe this. Talk to that man, Mr. Bara Jagdeo, even in Parliament. If I say, hello, Mr. Jagdeo, I say, Mr. Jagdeo, I do not get more than a hi. The man does not speak to me. He's probably still bitter. And I'm saying still bitter because of the loss that we administered. Remember, it was Berbice Region 6 that took the one national seat. And that's where we were instrumental in working from our grassroots crowd, myself and Dr. Ramaya. So he does not, up to today, I have not had a word with him. The vote of no confidence was tabled on the 16th of November, right after local government election results were published. It was debated on the 21st and voted on the 21st. From the 3rd of December to the 14th of December, we had budget debate. We couldn't leave the country to go anywhere. We could not. We were stuck in Georgetown from 10 in the morning to 11, 12 at night, 5 days a week for the budget debate. We approved $300.7 billion for the 2019 budget. And right after that, it was the no confidence motion. That man named Bara Jagdeo, Dr. Bara Jagdeo, does not speak to me. I have a good relationship, I'll say, with Irfan Ali, Dr. Irfan Ali, now the presidential candidate, because through being with the Public Accounts Committee, which he was the chairman of, we had an interaction on several things. And so, again, where is the money? You know, there's a movie with the Gooding Jr. guy. He said, "Show me the money." I would love to see the 3 million Trinidad money that I got and the 2 million US and whatever else, man. I need that now.
Yes, indeed. So let's come right back to this case, Selwyn and Charan.
Yes.
The likelihood here is that the applicant is requesting the court to so instruct that according to 177, the chairman can only be deaf and dumb to anything else, accept this report and declare with it. It goes with what Trotman would have said a day before, that right or wrong, all she must do is declare. Selwyn.
Well, I mean, the chairman of GECOM has to stay true to the Constitution and stay true to Order 60. A recount was ordered because of the conduct of Mingo and others on March 4th. That recount was upheld by all levels of court, and the results, the valid results, were in a report that Mingo submitted, not Mingo, Lowenfield submitted, as well as the CARICOM observer team submitted. Those are the numbers that the retired Court of Appeal Justice and others, the 6 others at GECOM, has to rely upon to make their declaration. I mean, the Constitution says what it means and means what it says, to quote the CCJ. So they don't need, I'm sure the court don't need to interpret what Justice Claudette Singh's and her team of 6 other commissioners' mandate, role, and responsibilities are. She's given clear directions to Lowenfield, and the clear directions are to comply with the law and the order as it is.
Mm-hmm. And to that point, though, just before you come in, Charan, to that point, Selwyn, no one and no court can remove or take over, usurp the role of GECOM. I mean, that is my point here. And no court can instruct GECOM what to declare, how to declare. That is totally the remit of GECOM, isn't it, sir?
It is true. All that can occur is what happened in the Holidar case. If there's a procedural unfairness or a breach of natural justice, the court can cure that as it did in Holidar, where Mingo was concerned with those fraudulent numbers. In this case, there's no issue as to what the valid recount numbers are. So all that can happen is after a president is declared, an election petition can be filed and litigated through the court. But you're absolutely correct that the court can't instruct GECOM as to how to perform its constitutional mandate. It's an independent constitutional body, and its role will remain so.
And if I may, what happens to all those declarations that would have been made by Lowenfield to the GECOM Commission? Have they been set aside? Has it been discarded? How do we treat them?
Well, my understanding is that they are of no force and effect. I understand that the court, where the chairperson made an order recently that superseded 10 declarations. And all the declarations that were made before that have different numbers, they all fall by the wayside. She's asking for the recount numbers. The recount numbers are quite clear that the PPP has more than 15,000 votes ahead of the APNU-AFC, and the small political parties have 9,000 votes. Right. So, those and the APNU-AFC have lost this election. Those are the numbers that she has to go by. Those are the numbers that the commission has to go by. I mean, I understand that they're trying to come up with all kinds of shenanigans. I mean, but this has been more than 4 months. And like I said before, when we were debating at the start of this program, somebody ought to bring a motion that this new application is frivolous, vexatious, and made in bad faith, and have it tossed out even before anything is heard on it. I mean, why waste any more time? Let's get on with the people's business. I mean, now we have all kind of public service. The army is running out of money, the police is running out of money, the prison service is running out of money, and now they've got to find a place to house over 200 prisoners who were displaced by that wooden building that hasn't been replaced.
Right.
I mean, where does it end for this poor South American nation that doesn't have excessive financial reserves?
Right. So, but gentlemen, to both of you, this question: if across the board, everybody other than Basil Williams, meaning no disrespect to him per se in this matter, but if anybody other than any other attorney other than Mr. Robertson, Mr. Williams, and maybe who they will employ, because as long as you're employed, you have to go with what you have to represent your client. Every other lawyer, every other attorney like you guys are seeing this case as having little, if any, merit. So, gentlemen, why file this case then? What's the big thing behind the scenes that we are not seeing that may be the reason why all of these delays are taking place by going to the court?
And it's just that. Let me take a couple of minutes on that one. I see it as I think I mentioned this earlier. All that is happening is they're stalling for time, but towards what end? What do they hope to get at the end of the time that they're looking at? Going through this, some lawyer, I think Anil will stand up and ask the court, as Selwyn just said, to strike out the goddamn application that they're making, because it is baseless, it is vexatious, and it's definitely in bad faith. But what do we have? We have lawyers who are minting money. We have a government that's not really entitled to the money that they're spending, but they're spending the money. And I still cannot see what is it that they hope to gain at the end of all of this. You have, if Basil hires you, you're going to work. But you're a lawyer, man. Some of them are Queen's Counsel. You have some QC people talking outside there, and some trainees that they have can do better than them. But it happens. It is perhaps because they're paid big bucks. They're not going to say, look, this case is a useless case. 33 is bigger than 32. That's a majority in a 65 seat.
But the political gamesmanship must have a fruit that they're waiting to pluck. Obviously, it's to stay in power. But look, the chairman even, it might be, impossible is a hard word to use, but improbable for the chairman to retract her own statement made on June the 14th or 15th, when she said, I cannot arrogate to myself to be a court, and I cannot do this, and we cannot do that, Selwyn. So what's this fruit? I mean, other than delay, what are they hoping to? Push the chairman into a corner for what if it's not going to happen anyhow?
I mean, look, I mean, Dominic Gaskin has said it as it is, and it's true. I quote Dominic Gaskin because I can't quote anyone else. I can't quote any internal sources. I can quote what's in the public domain. There's the plan to stay in power by any cost and not to give up office. And that's why I keep trotting out what Dominic Gaskin says, because I can't quote anything internally.
Let me push back at you on that. So Peter Wickham, well-known Caribbean personality and political scientist, and of course a political consultant across the Caribbean, he had joined us last night in room 592 all the way from France, and he said the following: how can President Granger hope to represent Guyana at the UN or at CARICOM or the Commonwealth, knowing that these people here called you out and they're saying that you are an illegal government? How then staying in power, what does it give you?
Well, I mean, we've had people assume power in the same manner for any number of purposes. We've had it in Pakistan with General Musharraf in 1999, and after General Musharraf was accepted after a while as a person who was taking Pakistan forward. I've dealt a lot on the Musharraf and the Nawaz Sharif file when I worked for Canada, the Immigration and Refugee Board, because a lot of refugees were fleeing Pakistan. But Musharraf was accepted after a while. We've had that in Nigeria as well with the current president of Nigeria. We've had it in any number of countries where people have have either clung to power or taken over power, whether it's a bloodless coup or a bloody coup. And after a while, the international community simply went along with the regime. In Guyana's case, I mean, you've got significant American investments in Guyana. You've got the oil, you've got all kind of assets in Guyana, and I don't know how it's going to end. But I mean, Granger will be able to if he stays in power. It doesn't seem like he's traveling, but he will send his emissaries and his envoys to those meetings. He may not attend, but he will send his envoys to those meetings, and he will hang in power as long as he has a group behind him, led by probably Mr. Harman, that keeps him and props him up in there, illegally or otherwise.
Right. Got you. Charan, your thoughts?
You see, we have learned, we've seen in different countries, any sanction, it's not going to affect the boys who are sitting in the high seats. It is the ordinary man who will be bothered. They cannot get, because remember during the PNC years prior to 1980, when we had to line up for food, basic food stuff. If that comes, it is only the people who will suffer. And then you are representing these people, Mr. President, Mr. Minister, whatever you are, whoever you are. These are the people you claim that put you inside there. They're your supporters. You love them and you're starving them. Something must be wrong with that particular practice. Whether you're a diehard politician or you're a fly-by-night politician, I don't care. Why are you doing this to people? We will see that, and that is perhaps, as Selwyn said, they may delegate the responsibility to others to represent them. And if the sanction is to the point where you will be removed from the Commonwealth or from CARICOM, then you won't have any representation there. How does that help the people in Guyana? It is a way to literally try to strangle the usurping government. But will it have its effect? And if it does, how long will it take? And then what happens during that particular time? It's a sad state.
And also, Selwyn, back to you with this. Peter Wickham made an interesting comparison last night. He said, Guyanese over the past 134 days, a lot of the APNU-AFC supporters have held up this placard of sovereignty and claimed that nobody should interfere with our business and nobody should speak about us. But he quite nicely and quite rightly drew the distinction between sovereignty and legitimacy, right? And poignant statement he made that there is a stark difference. Over to you, Selwyn. What's your thoughts on this paradigm?
No, I agree. I agree with the concept of with sovereignty versus legitimacy. And sovereignty and legitimacy can go hand in hand. What we're dealing with in Guyana, I mean, people are speaking about sovereignty, but Section 1, the Constitution says sovereignty lies with the people, right? That's where sovereignty lies. And the people have made their choice. You know, we had an election, the people has made their choice, and their choice must be respected. And that's where legitimacy comes in. Legitimacy comes in from respecting the choice and the will of the people.
Thank you. And Sharon, your thoughts on that? Because one of the things, of course, that you would have uncovered is all of you foreigners sitting in our National Assembly.
Yes.
And so the matter but on a more serious note, Sharon, there's been a lot of attack, especially against Canada. As you know, the Canadian High Commission this morning only tweeted a photo of Chan Santoki and Daisy Bout from Suriname.
Shaking hands.
Yeah, she tweeted that photo and said, this is how you should have done it. This is how it can be done. A lot of Guyanese, well, not a lot, the APNU-AFC people took umbrage to that, strong umbrage to that. And again, under the claim of sovereignty and its non-diplomacy and all of that. Canada has, however, gentlemen, put a lot of money in these elections itself.
Of
and so they have a vested interest, don't they, Sharon?
Yeah, of course. And you see, again, I was listening to a preacher from, I think he was an African preacher. I'm not sure exactly what country, but he spoke of Sudan, he spoke of Zimbabwe and all these African states. One of the problems you have when you saw Botase, if that's a correct pronunciation, shaking Santoki's hand, handing over power, conceding, look, you've won the election, congratulations. Will Granger do that in this case with Irfan? All the rulings have been that the PPP has won the election. Why is it he doesn't want to do that? It is something that seems to be pushing, and I'm saying pushing, people into this crazy thing that they call power. They have not earned it, but they're hustling to acquire power so that they can continue to control the masses. And if you look at it, again, I might sound like a racist here. This man mentioned African states. African successors are not congratulated by their predecessor at all. He can't recall anyone, and I don't know of anyone. Mind you, I haven't seen much, but do you have that happening where they will congratulate you? Why is it I'm not happy that you have won? Let us look to see where we're at fault. And Nigel Hughes, the man who introduced the new maths, he said that the APNU-AFC lost the election because they neglected the person. There was no coming back to say thank you. David Granger held in 5 years 3 public press conferences. What kind of man is that who stays aloof, stays apart from the people? These are the people who will kiss your feet. And as we say in Hinduism, will bow to you because they worship you. And you are trying your best to stay so far from them. That is by itself a slap in the face of your supporters. And so, right. I don't know that it will ever happen in this particular setting that we have, because they will have to be removed at some point in time, and they will still be bitter. The man is pushing the people, inciting the people, and he knows. He is conscious. And I'm sure, I don't have to go through that. Most of them, the big ones there, know that they lost the election, and they're still fighting. Again, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier. To achieve what?
Right. But gentlemen, I want to get a little bit, I would like if you could lead us a little bit into the brain, the DNA of both of your previous respected political collaboration. The Charan, DNA of AFC, even though it has been short-lived, and I say lived, you know what I mean when I say that, short-lived. Yes. It's dead and buried, I believe. But the DNA, twofold. One is that the AFC was basically built on the backs of bitter people who couldn't get along with PNC or couldn't get along with Jagdeo. And there were few guys in the middle that were really passionate maybe about the country, passionate about the role that they could play in this country and stuff like that. But that DNA that disintegrated into nothingness, what mindset and what could have pulled this back? And Selwyn, same to you. The PNC, after being in exile for 23 years, has finally gotten another chance at power. And I really mean PNC. Forget everybody else. We know
Right.
who the players are. Why throw it all away? Because now, who would be voting for them in the future? I don't know. Charan, you first.
All right. Let me say this, York. Again, I mentioned that Nagamutu was supposed to be. He wanted to be. He thought he was going to be. He even said that the late Dr. Chetty Jagan gave the leadership to him. But Janet Jagan passed it on to Jagdeo. His hatred, this man hates Jagdeo. And I'm saying hates. It's not a past tense thing. He hates Jagdeo to the point of wanting to, if he had a chance, to crush that man. And that has not changed. So his fight was not so much to get into a position, even if he's prime minister. He wanted this power that he could have gotten or should have gotten while he was with the PPP and didn't get. He wanted to show Jagdeo, well, you got that, I will get this. And so Nagamutu, even though he was second, he was prime minister, should be second to Granger. He was second to Joe Harman. As a prime minister in charge of parliament, he had no say. He had no say unless it's approved by Joe Harman. A typical case, Cheryl Duncan, this comedian who was all over the place screaming, was fired. Nagamutu said, reinstate Cheryl Duncan. He had an issue with Geeta Chandan, who was in charge of the Chronicle board. Cheryl Duncan was not rehired. You know why? Joe Harman said Cheryl Duncan remains fired. Nagamutu is the prime minister and had no say in something as simple as that. So that is, again, one of the things that caused the downfall of the AFC. Everybody was hustling for individual self-promotion, self-elevation, nothing for the people. And that was so clear. I don't know who wants to tell me differently, but I saw it then, and you're seeing now. If at all, Nagamutu had the interests of the people at heart, all they had to do, himself and the AFC, is stand up and say, look, we saw the SOPs, we lost the election, the coalition is no more, and work towards rebuilding what you had. The Canadian chapter has one person only who is still saying, yes, I'll support Nagamutu. I don't know why. One. All the other boys and girls have moved away from the AFC.
But Sharon, undeniably, there are other people in the AFC. Why this self-destruct? Why throw away everything that they all, let us leave you out of the picture. What is it in these men and women that would have thrown away everything that they worked hard up to 2011, 2012, 2013, 2015 for? They have now sacrificed it.
I don't know if you want to call it sacrifice. They did not think they were going to lose the election. They did not see that they were going to lose the election.
But sir,
yes.
I agree with you. My point is now they at least know. The point I'm making is that all the wise men on all their wise horses and all the wise men cannot put this Humpty Dumpty back together again, no matter what they do.
Yes.
These are so-called intelligent people that knows exactly what is happening presently. And one would expect that if there is any decency in them, any iota of reasonableness, they would have divorced themselves from such a situation.
Well, what do we see? We only have one person. Boys like Bonnie Rajkumar or Bernard Rajkumar and Odwin Rutherford, we talked about what is going on. We did not work for local government election. Bonnie Rajkumar now replaced Dominic Gaskin as Minister of Business. He's still receiving salary, but that's another side. What that man did, he did not up to today, is enjoying what he's getting because he did not stand up to what we talked about as friends, as MPs, as backbenchers, as AFC members. And they did nothing to change the framework or the mentality of the leaders of the AFC. And they have a chance to do that even now. And they're still not stepping up to the plate. I honestly cannot. I don't know what to say when it comes to but I've always in my post referred to the AFC as a dead party, and I used to write it in capital DEAD because it is a dead party. And now the self-destruction is coming. The hierarchy of the PNC is killing a party that was very dominant. Some of its own supporters, strong supporters, are moving away because of the way they're treating the people and the fight that they're putting down. You know, if you fight for a cause, it might be something. If you fight because you're loyal to somebody, it might be something. They're not fighting because they're loyal to the country. They're fighting everything that they're doing is against the country.
Correct.
And so I honestly cannot see. I still don't know. I cannot fathom what is driving them.
So, Selwyn, what is it that would make these men and women who could have very well possibly won the 2025 elections do what they have done now? And I will say this to you, Council. I believe that had the PNC had the APNU-AFC called an election immediately after that no confidence motion, they might have stood a chance to win being an underdog. But what, Selwyn, would have caused people to now do what is happening here? Mind you, sir, at the end of this, the big boys would decide and go their way. It's the little boys and girls that will continue hating and have conflict in the society.
I think one of the things is the politics of fear. When the APNU-AFC got into power, they got into power in a wave, and they didn't expect that that they would have lost an election. I mean, Granger declared the next decade the decade of development. So, I mean, what they had plans. They had a concept of what they wanted Guyana to be for the next 10 years. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, they were in the political wilderness for 23 years, and they have trotted out any number of incidents that they claim to have occurred that would be tantamount to victimization by the PPP, and so. It could be the politics of fear. It could be the politics of race. It could be any number of. It could be the politics of denial, or they're in a state of denial that they lost the election, and it could be that the fact that they haven't come clear with their own members, meaning that they'll do anything to stay in power. It does, even if they lose friends, even if they lose allies, even if they lose persons within their party who are moderate and drop off because they wouldn't sanction an autocratic government. But I mean, as it appears right now, they're still fighting and doing whatever is in their power to stay there, to control the reins of power, even though there's nothing to fear in an Ali's government and an Ali's leadership. I've said before, and I say it again. Right. I think President Orphan Ali will be a president for the people. I think he will move Guyana forward. The PNC, the APNU, and the AFC ought to work in the trenches to build up their support in the same manner that Jagdeo did for the past 5 years leading up to this election. I'm not defending their autocracy at all.
Right, I mean, of course.
I'm speaking out about it.
I was going to ask you this, Council. Give me your experiences in the Walter Rodney COI and the prison COI and prison outbreak COI and so forth. Is there a likelihood that from a private citizen perspective, we could say we demand a COI into all of the killings and have that history dealt with openly?
Well, I think the PPP will do that when they get into office, because quite frankly, they are. I think it was the Starbuck News that did a full report on those on the 400 and odd people that died. And there was an explanation. Some of them were killed extrajudicially by the police. Some of them were killed in crossfire. Some of them were victims of crimes who were killed, including police officers. They were not all black persons. Some were, the Lusignan killing, a lot of them were East Indians. So, the thing that it's not the PPP necessarily that caused all those killings. The police continue to act extrajudicially even now with the APNU-AFC government. 5 persons were killed on the seawalls, and Nigel Hughes represented a witness who came forward. 2 persons were killed in a churchyard in Campbellville in a police-related killing when they didn't fire a shot.
Right.
And we know that they were killed. I knew they were killed extrajudicially because the police officer sat with me and said, "Oh, we didn't cover the scene. We didn't stage the scene right." So there was only 1 shot fired in the Campbellville killing, and that was fired at the house where the robbery took place.
Right.
Yet the police said there was a gunfight with the criminals, and there was no other shot than 1 spent shell that was found at the scene, and nothing came out of that. That was an extrajudicial killing, and I spoke out about that before, even while I was the lawyer for the PNC, because I felt that was totally antithetical to lawful law enforcement. So we had excesses with the police during the PPP 23 years in power, and we had police excesses while the APNU-AFC was in power. We've had at least 4 major prison fires. People don't burn down prisons because lightly.
Of course.
And if I can, gentlemen, quickly back to this court case that is starting tomorrow. Let's assume, using Counsel Selwyn argument or feelings, that maybe this could end up at the CCJ. Could we have a gauge as to what is likely going to be the CCJ's stance or attitude, especially when they just throw the case back from the Court of Appeal?
Well, I think the CCJ has to deal with every single case on its merit, and it has to disabuse itself of any preconception of the litigants or the lawyers that appear before it. So it will deal with the case on its merit, and if it feels that the case does not warrant its attention at this point, it will simply dismiss it summarily.
And is it with regards to this court case that is tomorrow, if the applicant is in effect trying to use Mingo's declaration, does it not make it necessary for GECOM to release the statement of polls?
Well, it makes it necessary but the thing about it is, in Holidar case and other cases, the recent Ulita Moore case, we're way past Mingo's declaration. We're way past the statement of polls now. We're at the statements of recount phase right now. The recount is constitutionally valid, and it was upheld by the various levels of courts.
Yeah, but counsel, if I can, let's discuss that a little bit, because the applicant in this case that's going to tomorrow's court, this applicant is basically saying that those 10 declarations were sound and proper. And the applicant in part, therefore, is making a case for the 10 declarations, even though the chairman has discarded them. So, Counsel Selwyn Pieters, with that, given Leonard Gildarie's question then, if the applicant is making a case for Mingo's declaration, for those 10 declarations, shouldn't the applicant then prove his case by saying, here is my backup documents as to why those declarations are important or it's not important?
Well, yeah, the applicant should have a proper factual record before the court, and the factual record would include those statement of polls, right? But the applicant, I would assume, even though cloaked with that organization, the PNC, the applicant isn't going to say that he is appearing as a proxy for the organization, or he's the face of the organization in the similar way that Evelyn David was, or Yulita Moore. The applicant will simply say he's appearing in his own right. I know I have his affidavit, but I haven't read fully through his affidavit, but that's what he will say. But you're right, there's no statement of polls or anything of that nature attached to his affidavit. I mean, his application that I received today was 48 pages.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it was. It was. Well, that is a yes. Go on, Sharon.
Let me say something.
Unmute.
Let us not forget that when the Court of Appeal ruled in this matter that and added in the word valid, the CCJ simply said that the validity of the votes have nothing to do or has nothing to do with the word being inserted in the Constitution.
Right.
Because all the discarded votes, all the spoiled votes, and whatever else may have happened were put aside in different envelopes and they were not counted. The votes that were counted were, of course, the valid votes. And so the recount certificates have all been tabulated and only the valid votes were used. So therefore, the declaration or the report must be based on the valid votes on the recount certificate, which would be the numbers that we all know, which is 233,000 for the PPP and roughly 217,000 for the coalition. So I don't know that even if it gets to the CCJ, and sure enough, it will be treated as an individual case. But again, on the merits, where do you go with that? What support do you have to show? You know, I don't know, man.
Interesting. And I just want to, Sharon, if you don't mind, I want to take you back to an earlier point you mentioned. But before I do that, viewers and listeners, I just wish to share this piece of news that the Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt of Dominica has made a statement calling for an end to the political crisis, the political situation in Guyana. So, Mr. Skerritt, sir, I know you may not be listening to this broadcast, but surely somebody will tell you, please watch out, sir. They're going to come after you. Sir Hilary Becker has been attacked and attacked viciously for the statement he made and everybody else. So, Honorable Prime Minister Skerritt, be on the watch out, sir. And please know that those people who attack you from Guyana, they don't represent all of Guyana. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to also make this point addressed to, I think the person's name is Alstein Haywood. Miss Alstein Haywood, I don't know where you have gotten that 1,400 numbers from. In fact, what I heard Vala Lawrence said on air that it was 500,000 people that were killed under the PPP. Yeah, that were killed under PPP. So I don't know where these numbers are coming from. But the reason I'm addressing you, Miss Alstein Haywood, is if you can find that list of the 1,400, if you can find, I would be happy to have a Room 592 program one day, one night, and we address this matter openly. Bring the participants to the table and let's talk about who, when, what, how. Sir, Mr. Selwyn Pieters just addressed his concern because the truth is extrajudicial killing is wrong regardless of who's in government, regardless of who's in power. Abuse of power is not acceptable at all. Sharon, I want to come back to you on a point earlier. In 2016, Sharon, you were in Parliament.
Yes.
When Granger said to an Atlanta group that he don't believe that y'all could have won. Well, y'all, I mean, you know, you're not y'all now. But he don't believe that the APNU-AFC could have won the 2020 elections. He said it then. And I'm raising this to connect some dots for you, sir. And thereafter, APNU-AFC spent the other 4 years, in my view, planning how to rig rather than winning the favors of the electorate. And by saying so, what I mean, He went and he selected Patterson as the chairman of GECOM. Can you imagine if Patterson was the chairman? Well, with this elections would have been done, gone with, and over since the 2nd of March, and APNU-AFC would have been sworn in power. And then Patterson would have nominated the persons presently that manage the secretariat, and a whole slew of things happened. You had one crisis after the other with the APNU-AFC. Charan, were you privy to any discussion, any such concerns going back to the 2016, 2017 years of a concern of winning an election, particularly when it came down towards the talk of LGE?
Yo, I think I mentioned this in one of my posts. I'm not sure if it ever came out on air like it is now. Richard Allen, a PNC backbencher, we were at the Marriott Hotel one day. We had a meeting with some of the foreign people who came down for a particular purpose. He told me how tired he was. So I said, what are you doing, man? You're a pensioner. You're sitting in Parliament. We sit once a month and we get paid. What are you tired about? He said he has to go. Then he said he had to go in the interior to register people. What people are you registering? Man, the people who don't have birth certificates. We are going, myself and Winston Felix are going to give the people birth certificates. What they were doing, and you know, plane loads of Haitians came to Guyana. The word is, oh, they're going through to Brazil. Well, if they come to Guyana, they're going to Brazil. Why is it they were not in transit? Why did they exit and they were sent off in various areas? My friends, the people who are listening to this program, what they were doing, they were securing a win legally, if you want to call it that, when it came to the voting. But they were registering Haitians, Africans, Venezuelans who did not qualify to be registered as Guyanese. And so those were the people who were going to vote for them. And as it is, all they needed was 15,000. I think right now, and you can correct me, or you might be able to advise me and the people listening, there is about at least 30,000 Haitians in Guyana sitting in various corners of the country. When you register them, that is clean rigging. Clean rigging. And they were not qualified, but those are the people who were going to. And I knew that.
But Charan, but to your point, sir, if you don't mind me pushing you back on this thing.
Go ahead.
To that point, it is felt by many that that rigging plan was certainly in place until you voted in the no confidence. You derailed the plan.
Well, the no confidence did one thing, if nothing else. Forget removing all of us who are foreigners. What the no confidence did is stop them dead in their tracks. There are a lot of foreigners in the country now who do not have the birth certificate they were supposed to have to be able to vote. Because once you get that, when they did the house-to-house registration was supposed to be a partisan thing. It was stopped. Remember, after Claudette Singh, Justice retired, was named as GECOM Chair. She stopped the house-to-house registration because you were going to register people and have a new list with all these names on them. And all you needed was an ID card. You get your birth certificate, they will give you an ID card and you can go out and vote. And that, the no confidence motion stopped. It threw a monkey wrench in that entire plan. So if nothing else came, you know what they're claiming? The no confidence was a waste of time. Oh, we still sat in office until May 25th, 2020. Right. They didn't sit in office. They're illegal in office. But that's the game that they're playing.
Right. Thank you. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't realize we're almost at the top of the hour. And so our program time is running out rapidly, and it's been quite an interesting discussion, and therefore I'll have to seek to bring you to good counsel back on this program in the near future. But Mr. Charrandass, it's been a pleasure to have you here, sir. Mr. Selwyn, Pieters, it's been great to have you.
Same here, you.
As I said, this conversation needs to continue. And Selwyn and Charan, especially after these elections, more dialogue, more discussions needs to happen for Guyana to heal and for us to move on. Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to tell you all this. You know, like you, we all are bothered by what we are seeing in social media and what we are seeing happening every day. But I want to ask people a favor. If you dislike what's going on, that is your right. I dislike what's going on. Sharon does, Selwyn does, Leonard does, everybody does. But I don't curse, I don't abuse, I don't call people dogs. I don't call them hungry. I don't call people anything. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to appeal to you all. There is a good way to protest. You can be positive at protesting. When Sharon opened his big mouth in Parliament, he only said one word, and that word was yes. He didn't cuss, he didn't get on bad, he didn't do anything. One word. So words are extremely powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, let us not fall into that trap of being emotive and disruptive and abusive in the words we are using. Let us please remember that the people you are cursing are still Guyanese at the end of the day. And so as we wrap up our program, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you for joining us in room 592. I do not want to be owing Josh or Kevin even a minute of their time. And we're going to be wrapping up on time as I ask you on behalf of Mr. Leonard Gildarie to remember to tune in to us tomorrow at 1:30 as we will be listening and we'll be bringing you live feed from the court as soon as that is available of whatever is happening there. Mind you, ladies and gentlemen, and yes, Sharon, I know Andre, he is using colorful language as well. Mind you, ladies and gentlemen, to stay safe is all on you. So stay safe and remember to do a prayer for this beautiful country of ours. God bless you. God bless Guyana. Do have a great night. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
COVID-19 tips sponsored by Dex Soap. 1. Practice social distancing. 2. Wear your mask when leaving the house. 3. Wash your hands regularly for 20 seconds using our Dex Soap. 4. Cover your nose and mouth with a disposable tissue or flex elbow when you cough or sneeze. Choose Dex Soap for that extra cleanliness. Dex Soap is affordable and available nationwide.
Kaieteur Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.